Subconscious mind mastery, 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 mastery.
Welcome to yet another beautiful podcast with Thomas Miller and Fred Dodson, now ongoing since 2011, I believe, maybe 2012. 2013. Yes, I welcome all of you. Thanks for listening in. And I hope that you leave this podcast feeling so much better than before.
Oh, that's a wonderful intention. Now, obviously, one of us is somewhere and one of us is at home. So I'm recording this I've been recording some stuff for December, and I picked this venue to hang out for December. So there you go. It's kind of nice here, I gotta say.
It looks like you're evading winter.
Yeah. I'm being a snowbird, so that's good. Just to get us started, how have you been?
What does it look like? How have been?
Looks good. Looks very good. You look trim. That's one of the things I've seen on some of your online pictures is you have really made fitness a priority, it looks like.
Oh, yeah. Feeling good, feeling energized. The question was for me, how can I eat whatever I want, as much as I want, whenever I want? How much sports would I have to do to achieve that? That was
Oh, wow.
Experience. Uh-huh.
So working out all the time.
Well, no, I figured it out. The exact amount my body needs to move in order to be able to eat pizza and chocolate and you name it, anything,
Yeah.
burgers. I had a burger yesterday. I had a burger day before, fries, whatever I want. Because I'm so sick of depriving myself. I spent years depriving myself. I'm not going to deprive myself anymore. Because depriving yourself means telling the body you can't handle it. You can't handle it. And that's a negative belief. So I figured out that if I move 4 times a week, about 4 hours a week, half of it jogging, the other half weightlifting, I can eat whatever I want, as much as I want, with whom I want, whenever I want.
Seriously, 4 hours?
For me, it's 4 hours.
Wait until you get to your mid-60s, my friend. You'll have 4 hours of the week to do something else. Our bodies change. Boy, mine has. I'll tell you that. That's amazing.
Well,
I love that.
Yeah, I monitor my weight every day just to make sure, and it is so stuck at 200 pounds. I can eat whatever I want. It sticks there, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, mine has too. Maybe they're putting something in the food that's like this weight magnet. Okay, here's your weight. And it just like that, just stick. That's mine too. I can eat water and be the same weight, so it's like crazy. Anyway, well, listen. Over the course of the last several months, a couple of audiobooks have popped out. You've been busy, and I know you're blogging and writing articles and doing all the things that you do. But we have 2 audiobooks that I thought would be fun to talk about. One is the Upscaling method. That's the one that came out first. Why don't we just hang out there for a second, because it is a wonderful technique. And the thing that I was amazed is that this was a technique that you said you've been doing all the way back into the 90s when you started doing seminars, and it's kind of your number one go-to.
Yeah, for a while there, I figured I needed something that's not published, that I only do in seminars. So I just kept my main technique to myself, so that I could use it as a surprise tool in coaching. So now I've given away that surprise tool, which forced me to come up with new surprise tools and even better techniques, but that's another story for another time. This is the go-to technique because before our coaching session even starts, I already have you shifting your energy upwards, downwards, and you can already you already have a handle on your entire reality if you can do that. So before the session even starts, they're already like, I think I can deal with this. I think we're done. And I'm like, thank you very much, and I'll see you another time. No, but then we go on for the rest of the day coaching, but it's already done in the first 10 minutes.
And they know
battle
it. They realize it. Yeah.
they feel it. Yeah. Every battle is won before it's even begun. So that's I love to do that. I love to fix the problem before we even start. And then we're sitting there and like, now what?
Yeah. So let's walk back a second, because you mentioned something very important. And I've seen on your Twitter, which was where you hang out on reality creation on social media, that you are doing a big seminar in 2026. Tell everybody about that.
Well, I just don't think that true inner growth can be achieved online or with AI or by reading books, frankly. Even though I write books, you can get a good basis, but true experience, nothing beats true physical experience and human interaction. And that's why I still do seminars and will continue to do seminars. And I figured, what's the most beautiful location I've ever been to my entire life? What's the best possible location? Because I'm talking about higher realms. What's the highest realm on earth? What's shortly before heaven? And I came up with Amalfi Coast. That's the closest to heaven that it gets. And that's why I'm doing the Higher Realm Seminar, which is limited strictly to 50 people. People keep asking me, why is it limited? Because I can't handle more than 50. In other words, I can handle it, but I stop caring about the individual. If it's more than 50 people, it just becomes one big blur. Whereas if I have 50 people, I can take care of each person, address each person individually. And the Higher Realms course, thank you so much for bringing it up, Thomas, and for letting me plug it, is about focusing on the highest realms possible. The highest you can go with consciousness, for adjusting your nervous systems to be able to handle all the energy, for soul traveling, for traveling to the higher realm, for addressing the higher realm. That's what this seminar is for. It's open to everybody. And amazingly, I'd love to get more Italian to it. There's no Italians. There's like 35 people signed up so far, 15 seats left, and there's not a single Italian. So my intention is to get a few Italians in there.
All right. So if you're from Italy, here you go. Now, what discount are you going to put on it so that you can entice these Italians to come, you know? And by the way, mention the dates too.
Yeah, the date is end of August. I think it's 3 days, 24, 25, 26, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there.
And where's the easiest one-click place to go to get information on it?
realitycreation.org/live courses. Live, another /courses.
All right, good deal. Okay. Well, I wish you the very best, and 15 people from Italy are going to drop into your lap. That would be great. And what a local flair that would bring too. That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy how quickly it's sold out. I still have almost a whole year, and it's almost sold out. So
yeah,
it's pretty.
Yeah. Well, maybe you'll have to do 2 back to back. How about that? Don't give you any ideas. Well, so if you're talking about higher realms, what a perfect segue back to upscaling, because that's really what that technique is all about. It's about, you know, you mentioned something, and when I was reading the book, I thought, okay, this guy is your honey sweet spot. One of them is scales, because levels of energy, the book that everybody says that book changed my life, is a scale book. Upscaling, scale, you just mentioned, you go up and down, up and down. So here you're talking about doing a higher realm seminar, and I would imagine that some of the techniques from upscaling will appear there too.
Before I answer that, let me comment that it appears to me that you have upscaled. You, Thomas Miller. Anybody watching this would notice, if we see you right now versus doing a podcast with you 5 years ago, something has changed, something has upscaled. I can see it. You look healthier, you look younger, you look happier. You're supposed to be aging when you get older. So can you please share briefly what is going on with you? How did you upscale?
Well, the one thing that I did, like what you talked about with the weight, that you weren't going to deny yourself anymore. I've kind of years ago realized that Peter Pan had a good philosophy. I won't grow up. So I'm determined not to grow up. So I just thought, here I am at 66 wondering what I'm going to do when I grow up. But what happened over the last period of time that you're talking about is, as you know, I had a little detour out to California. It was kind of a quiet time, and I've had to kind of be quiet since then. And I know you like your privacy as well, so that came in as part of it. But a lot of the fulfillments of my own path, part of the reason I'm here, intentions that I made in a coaching session with you in Aspen, Colorado back in 2016, all came full circle. Like a lot of stuff fulfilled by my going out there. And I know even a lot of listeners and watchers here can't follow my bouncing ball. I mean, look, I'm in the beach, I'm in an audio booth, I'm da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, that's kind of my nature, for one thing. But also, it is the fulfillment of all of this. So I love being able to bring this kind of venue. I've always wanted to do it. You were in my van right after I first got it. And there were some delays of putting all of that together. But the upscaling was, go ahead.
You've obviously upscaled. I can see that, and I think most people, even compared to last year,
just doing the work. And you mentioned you get more out of a live encounter, and yet we can't be with you. People that are especially really trying to upscale their lives can't be with you every minute when it's needed. But what I've had the blessing of, and I have to thank you for it again publicly, is since 2013, full immersion with your words in these ears coming out as I'm interpreting them as best I can to try to make it the way you might say it, brings all of that into one's consciousness. And that's why I've always suggested, I had a doctor tell me this, you retain, I think the number is like 80% more if you are reading the words with your eyes while you're listening to them with your ears. And that's what and not only that, but I've had to engage mouth and emotion. So it's just been a full immersion in everything that you've taught. And all I can say is it works. Got to give it time, but it works.
All right. Now I forgot the question you asked.
I know, I did too. I think we were talking about upscaling. You're like, well, okay, you just said, Thomas, you've upscaled. What did you do? I've been doing the work every day.
You're an example of upscaling, even compared to our last podcast. And it's been a while, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Since summer.
Okay.
Since the summer.
Okay.
But, another thing to add to this is, and I can't, this is one that I'm frustrated because I can't communicate it through the podcasts the way I'd like to. But you just mentioned about your diet. You said, I got serious about figuring something out of how I could live freely and not be restricted. And you put full attention to it and you made it work. You dedicated what needed to be done in order to upscale that area of your life. And the one thing that I guess that I've been doing since all the way back in 2008, 2009, is I have been so dedicated and serious to this path. And I'm going to say this, and I don't want to be judgmental, but it's just an observation, that I see a lot of people dabbling with the path. Spirituality can be a convenience. And I say spirituality, I don't even know if this is spirituality. Self-help, what would we call it? Upscaling, upscaling your life. And I took it very, very seriously. So I think that's another factor. I've been tenacious. I'm like a dog that has a hold of your blue jeans and is not going to let go.
Dabblers are people who are not actually focused. That's why I keep talking about focus. I published a book recently and people were telling me they read it within a day. These people think they did something awesome, but as I sit there, I don't think it's that awesome because it means You didn't really absorb and go deeply into the contents of the book. Oh, I read that in a day. What's next? The book is full of exercises. It's meant to take years to develop that. And then, like, read it in a day. What book is next? That's dabbling, and we see a lot of that. We see a lot of shallow understanding. Not having looked into something very, very deeply, as you have, and as I have, obviously. And people wonder, well, how are you maintaining this weight? Well, I really decided to finally look into it, which I avoided for 10 years because I was a dabbler. Let's try a little bit of a keto diet and try a little bit of intermittent fasting, and then I was like, wait a minute. What do I really want? I actually want to eat whatever the heck I want. That's what I really want, and then what's required for that? What's actually required? So I had to experiment until I found the sweet spot. And that's deeper focus, and deeper focus does solve our problems. I'm not saying anything new, but the realization is that unfortunately, 99% of the people out there are dabblers. I've been a dabbler many times in my life. You've been a dabbler. We're dabblers, and we shouldn't be. If you really want something, you'll figure out a way.
Well, that's absolutely true, and that applies really to anything. And I guess people have to make their priorities, and sometimes the alternatives to, I like to say, living my highest timeline. I just love that. It's a visual. Upscaling your method, upscaling your life is sometimes, the other thing I think too, who we hang around with and who we associate with can make such a huge difference in this process. Because a lot of times, seen this one too, is people will get around other people. And the old saying, you're like the five you spend the most time with. Boy, that's so true. And that group will pull them down. And I think that's one of the things too, is over the last several years, a lot of alone time, which has been good, but also being around people that wanted to lift me up. And that's what the folks here that I'm joining their Thanksgiving on the beach have invited me in, and they want to support me. So I think it's really important who you hang around with too.
Oh, that's very important. Thanks for being discerning in that. It's the reason I like alone time is because that's when I'm the best, actually. And my wife is less discerning, and because she's less discerning with who she hangs out with, there's often times where she goes down a little and is not quite up there, and it's because of all the trouble that certain people cause, And I'm not saying you shouldn't have any friends. You should have friends. Community is so important, but you need to be discerning with who you hang out with. I thought that was basic, but apparently needs to be stated.
Yeah. And I think too, and this isn't, we're talking about scales, and I've got a great scales question that I want to ask here, but times are changing. We've seen it since COVID. You came back to the United States because of COVID. And things have really changed in our world since then. And I think one of the additional things that's happening is there is going to be this higher scale of people that are operating from a higher vibration on this planet. And they're going to be leaders of taking us to a different level. I guess you could say it's Dolores Cannon type stuff. You've talked about it too. And I think that separation is going on right now. So when we get around the lower vibrations, sometimes they just separate on their own. It's like, you don't have to do anything. They'll edge you out. And sometimes you might just say, am I going to choose that low vibe or am I going to stay up high? And then that's a choice, and that's the scale.
Well, it's become so extreme, Thomas, that I've started speculating as follows. Yesterday, I was sitting at lunch with a friend, and I speculated as follows. What if everybody, except a very few people, are actually clones? They're not clones. I'm not saying they are clones, but I speculate that way because the differences are so extreme. I see people going through the motions and never veering outside of the beliefs, same thoughts, same activities day by day by day. I'm like, that's like, they never go off script. You know, I try to discuss something deeper with them and they're like, would you like some cake? Next week, I try to discuss something deeper with them. Would you like some cake? Somebody else tries to discuss something deeper with them. Would you like some cake? That's clone behavior. That's it's low consciousness. That's what it really is. It's not clones, but it's similar to clones. It's and then you have the same type in every race and every culture. Would you like some cake instead of talking deeper stuff? And that's very unfortunate. People who don't veer off script. It baffles me to the point that I get paranoid. Like, what the heck is going on here?
You know, I think we have a new term for that. Let's call them Tesla robots. Because, you know, Elon's trying to build all these robots, right?
Yeah.
What you just talked about was a human robot. Why does he need to build robots? They're already programmed. Just change the programming a little bit.
Yeah, who knows? They might actually, my goodness, they might actually be robots clothed as humans. They're already all around us, okay? I can barely discern between AI and humans anymore on social media. You know, I'm like, didn't he give the same talking points half a year ago and another half a year ago? Why isn't this guy changing in any way? Yeah, robots, NPCs, clones, that's what it feels like. I don't want to go too much in that direction because it lacks compassion. And I don't want to start thinking that people can't change because my career is based on the idea that people can change. But man, Thomas, some people are dense.
Well, you know, I was going to ask you, what is the power of the scale? Because we're talking about upscaling method. You go up and then you come down and you deal with the lower vibrations of whatever it is that you're trying to do. You go back up and you go back down. Levels of energy the same way. What is a high vibration and what is a low vibration? And when you understand the scale and you work with the scale, you can instantly choose where you want to be and you can get yourself there really fast. So what is the power of the scale?
The power of the scale is the ability to shift, to change, to define where you are versus where you want to go, to define where you are versus your low points, your weaknesses, and your strengths. I mean, it's a very old and basic exercise. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? It's just the more advanced version of that. If I can compare levels without being judgmental, that's a key. Without judging myself or others for being low. Okay, I've been low many times, but we have to discern. The power of it is discernment, which is also a very ancient teaching that you find in every religion. Discernment. What is discernment? Discernment is knowing this is 5, this is 6 in comparison to it, this is 7 in comparison to it. I've used this for years in coaching. You can use it on anything. I can discern low quality coffee, high quality coffee. I can discern that smoking tobacco through a pipe is a little bit healthier than smoking a cigarette. So we got level 5 smoking and level 6 smoking. Level 5 cigarettes, level 6 pipe tobacco. Pipe tobacco isn't healthy. I wouldn't recommend it, but it sure is better than cigarette smoking. And I'd rather have you smoke tobacco from a pipe than from a cigarette. And that's the power of it. You know, marijuana is not good for this person because they're up here, but it is good for that person because they're down here. Without being judgmental, it is good for you. You need medical marijuana to get out of that very pain state, but you should not have it because it's going to get you down out of your enthusiasm and turn you into a vegetable. That's the power of scales.
The upscaling method. Do you have any other comments you'd like to make about that book?
Yes, read it.
Done and done. All right, let's shift to the latest one that we did. And by the way, both of these are on the website that I have, hightimelineliving.com, and they're up at the top. So straight links to Audible. And if you choose to buy it from Audible, remember, you don't have to have a subscription. You can buy it as a one-off book. A lot of people get confused by the way they do things. No. You don't have to subscribe. Just buy it as one book. You can also do that from Amazon, and you can buy it from Apple Books, and sometimes it's $1 or $2 cheaper there. So there's that. If you want a real quick link, hightimelineliving.com to both books. And Conversations with Our Creator was the second one. And I'm just going to start with that I have had not only personal experiences, but let me just read you what one listener said. She said she picked up Conversations with Your Creator, and the first words almost brought me to tears. I always joke that I'm hanging out with JC, and apparently wasn't completely disrespectful to the Most High in my relationship with the Father and Son. Thank you for lending your voice to such a great book. She was so complimentary, and we went on to go back and forth. I asked her if I could share that on the podcast with you. That's the kind of impact that this book has had. And I've just got to say that my own relationship, one of those upscaling things, is that my own relationship with my Creator pivoted after narrating that book. So thank you again for that.
You're welcome. I've heard a lot of good things about it. People crying and breaking up in tears, first chapter already. And unfortunately, a lot of people read it in one sitting, which is, it means it's a good book. It's easy to read and fun to read, but I'd rather it take a year to study.
Well, it's also one that you have to open your heart to. And I know a lot of people are blocked off because they've been hurt by various things, particularly the structure of religion. If somebody is sitting out there on that beach and they get up and watch the sunrise this way in the morning and the sunset that way in the evening, they don't have problems with their Creator. But if they go down there to the church, a lot of times they might come back pretty scarred up. So what this is talking about is not the relationship with that kind of image of, whatever is constructed. It's that kind of image with your Creator.
Yeah, there's a personal relationship that you can have with your Creator without intermediate. As I say in the book, you can have good churches, but a lot of churches are not. Through dissent in consciousness, through CIA infiltration. I don't know why. There's a lot of churches that suck big time, both Catholic and Protestant, and in other religions as well. It's just such a turnoff. What humans turn religion into, right? It's a real turnoff. The Vatican working with the mafia. In all kinds of weird business. I could list. I don't have to list things. Everybody knows. That's why the book was written, to take our relationship to our Creator back to ourselves, because by birthright we have a part of our Creator within ourselves, and through that heart, we have a direct link. To remind people of that direct link that needs no intermediate and reduces the importance of human advice, entities' advice, AI advice. You can take all that advice, but you have a direct link to the top quality, to the best.
You know, the way you put it, like we logged onto this program that I'm using for this interview. It's like Zoom. It's called eCam. I love it. And we said, hey, good morning. How are you doing? And we started chatting for a minute. And we thought, oh, wait a minute. We better roll on this. Well, the whole premise of the book is, why can't we talk to our Creator that same way? Hey, good morning. Wow, it's gorgeous out here today. You know, I think I haven't been on the beach. Could we take a walk on the beach together? Could we walk and talk this morning?
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's the premise of the book. Casual conversation.
And get the feedback, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Get yourself down to the beach so we can do this. But what you're saying is you can pop up and do that anytime, driving down the road, while you're meditating. I mean, why not? You know, you're kind of... Now, go ahead.
Yeah, I say it's tremendously healthy to do so. Even if it weren't real, it is real, but even if it weren't real, it would be healthy for you psychologically to refer to your ultimate parent, who knows all things, can do all things. That kind of belief can be extraordinarily healthy and empowering in your life versus the delusional version of that. Speaking of upscaling, which is I'm hearing voices. um, I've been guided so many times in my life. One of the reasons I wrote the book, and I describe these experiences in the book. I've been guided so much. I'm grateful.
One of the scars that people carry, that damage that they've had because they've been hurt by various connections with highest source. So they connect that God to pain. What do you tell say the agnostic or even the atheist? Oh, that's rubbish. That doesn't exist.
All the agnostic and atheist, that comes from pain. For example, you might have had Christian parents that were abusive. Got a lot of that, so-called Christian parents, and they're very abusive. I've seen a lot of that. They come to me, oh, I'm an atheist. And then if you dig a little deeper, there was some religious nut job that was abusive, verbally abusive, physically abusive. Or, they researched into churches a little and saw what's the hypocrisy going on in the background, and then they become atheists. But these are human creations. And if you're an atheist, I'm telling you that these human creations have nothing to do with who you are. I recommend you establish a connection on your own terms, because deep inside, you too know there's such a connection, and that creator wants to talk to you, and you want to talk to that creator. How do I know you want to talk to that creator? Because you won't stop talking about God all the time. You talk about God negatively, but that doesn't change the fact that your attention is on God all the time. I say in the book, the attention of an atheist is more on God than many religious people. They're online talking about God all the time, that means you desire such a connection. And anybody can establish that connection. You don't need all these creeps and middlemen and cretins interpreting things for you.
Yeah, that's absolutely for sure. And what you focus on expands, so you better watch it, because God will get you at some point. You'll realize, wait a minute. And wouldn't it be wise if somebody was open enough to plunk down a few bucks and pick up the book, and just be open enough to say,
let's give it a try.
I don't believe in you. I think it's all foolish. This is all a physical reality. Science governs it. The laws of physics are at play right here, but I'm willing to be open. So if you are there, would you show me?
It doesn't take any more than that. That's more than enough. I even write that in my book. You can even say, look, I don't really believe in you. I don't actually believe in you, but this book says this and this. So let's see what happens, eh?
Yeah, and you don't have to be pious and holy, and you don't have to speak a certain way. It's like you were saying, converse with God, just like we're talking right here.
Amen.
Great technique. Well, we've had, as you say, you've had and I've had people reaching out expressing how much they've appreciated that book. We've had some others on our Facebook page too that have said, yeah, impact instantly. So it really is. And my own little shift was kind of over the course of maybe 2 weeks of time, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where just a deeper connection came through. So as I've been doing the kind of things that you talk about, all of a sudden, a lot of things from my past, and actually as we're talking about healing these things, I had a connection with God. I'm not kidding now. You might say, oh, it's as real as this conversation. When I was 3 years old, I looked out the window of our house and I asked Jesus to come into my heart. And that was based off of something that I had seen at the church that we were attending. It was that famous picture of, it's called Jesus, the Light of the World, where Jesus is knocking on the door of a door that doesn't have a handle on the outside. And I'm sure I would have asked my parents, what is that? You know, well, that's Jesus. What's he doing? He's knocking. He wants to come into our life. I'm sure they would have told me something like that. And, you know, the construct of a 3-year-old, I wanted to connect with God. Well, fast forward 62 years, and all of a sudden, the crap came in. And what this little experience did is took me right back to the purity of that 3-year-old connection with God. And that, I got to tell you, that was absolutely beautiful. What a treasured moment. I will not forget it.
The simplicity of it all, that's beautiful.
In fact, I ordered a little picture of an image, a little, what do they call, manufactured print of the painting, and it's hanging on my wall now where I look out the window. So it's like I just recreated the whole pure. So every morning when I go downstairs, oh, hi, God. Yeah, Jesus is not. Oh, I looked up a word there, and it's from Revelation 3:20 in the Bible. Behold, I stand at the door of your life and knock. If any person hears the knock and opens the door, I'll come in. So I looked up some of the Greek on that, and the word is knocks and keeps on knocking. So every time I walk down, it's like a new invitation, a new fresh invitation. Come on in, let's talk. Let's have some coffee.
But that verse also indicates how close it is, how very near, how very simple. That's awesome. I like that verse. Thank you.
It is. Well, the holidays are upon us as this is going to be released. So if you need something to fill a little bit of time and your time off, why not invest in yourselves and go right to the top of hightimelineliving.com and boom, boom, right there, side by side, you can pick up both. That would be a suggestion, just a hint.
High Times Living. I've never heard of that site. I like it's all part of your, I've never seen you this way, plugging things like that. That's nice. It's an upscale.
Well, why not? Oh, sorry. Well, then let's go back and start this interview again. We're going to talk about some things, but we don't want you to do anything about it. We're going to talk about it, but it's our little secret. We do them to share them, don't we?
That's right.
Fred, I love you. I appreciate you so much, and I do wish you a good closing of 2025 and a wonderful 2026, especially with that seminar or seminars that you're going to be doing in Italy.
You have a wonderful new year, a good Christmas, and hope to talk to you soon. Thank you for this interview. The beach looks fantastic. You look fantastic. And to all the listeners out there, thanks for listening. Thanks for being with us.